Welcome to Ghosts and Ghouls. The Crying Boy is a series of paintings by artist Bruno Amadio from the 1950s. The painting has been attributed to many devastating fires, leading many to believe the painting is cursed. British tabloid The Sun ran an article in 1985 titled "The Blazing Curse of the Crying Boy." In the article it was claimed that the painting was responsible for many house fires, with everything being destroyed except for the Crying Boy portrait. It detailed the experience of May and Ron Hall, whose home in Rotherham burned down in 1985. The cause of the fire was a chip pan that overheated and burst into flames, destroying nearly everything on the ground floor except for a print of the Crying Boy. The Halls claimed it was not a chip pan that had started the fire, but the Crying Boy himself. Ron Hall's brother, who was a firefighter, reported that several houses had burned to the ground, with the sole remaining item being a copy of the Crying Boy found intact, lying face down on the floor. He also insinuated that firefighters believed the painting to be cursed and that none would hang the picture in their homes. One fire station officer, Alan Wilkinson, had logged more than 50 Crying Boy fires. With the Sun's large reader base and the fact that more than 50,000 copies of the Crying Boy were hanging in British homes, hysteria and fear in the curse quickly spread. Many readers told their stories through the paper and various other papers around the country. The story was always the same. Soon after the picture found its way into a home, a fire broke out, destroying everything except the picture itself. These are some of the first-hand accounts. Dora Brand of Mitcham, Surrey, saw her home gutted by fire 6 weeks after she bought the painting, and although it was among many others she owned, it was the only one that survived. On the 25th of October 1985, in Eswall, Merseyside, a pair of the paintings hanging in a house belonging to the Amos family were found intact after a gas explosion destroyed the building. On the 12th of November 1985, Malcolm Vaughan of Gloucestershire helped to destroy a neighbor's picture. He returned home to find his own living room ablaze for reasons which firemen were unable to explain. In December 1985, William Armitage died at the age of 67 in a mysterious fire that swept through his house in Weston-super-Mare. It was discovered that the Crying Boy picture was found intact lying beside the pensioner's charred body. One of the firemen who dealt with the blaze was afterwards quoted as saying, "I've never believed in the jinx up until now. But when you actually come across a picture in a gutted room, and it's literally the only thing that hasn't been touched, it is most odd." Several readers also wrote in, explaining that after they had read about the curse, they attempted to destroy their copies of the paintings. They attempted to burn them in their garden incinerators, but the paintings failed to burn. The Sun organized mass bonfires for the burning of the paintings, and soon over 2,000 had finally gone up in flames, although they were not easy to burn. They did eventually succumb to the fire and flames. The origin of the boy depicted and the curse has many theories, with the best-known version being that Bruno Amadio had fled to Spain soon after the end of World War II. Here Amadio met a young boy named Don Bonillo, a mute orphan who had seen his parents perish in a house fire during the war. Amadio soon adopted the young child, although he was warned off of doing so by a local priest, as the boy was the center of many mysterious fires that broke out wherever he went. The boy was known locally as the Devil Child. Amadio refused to believe such stories, and the new family did well. Amadio's paintings were selling well, and the two were living easy. Unfortunately, One day Amadeo found that his house and studio had burned to the ground. Remembering the priest's warnings, he immediately blamed Don and kicked him out of the family. Don Bonillo was not heard from again until 1976. In 1976, another bizarre event occurred just outside Barcelona. A car smashed into a wall and burst into flames. The driver was killed and was so horrifically burned, he was not able to be identified. However, upon investigation back at the police yard, the glove compartment was pried open. There, among the burned items, was an untouched driver's license. The name on the license was Don Bonillo. It is said all the Crying Boys paintings were cursed by the memory of Don Bonillo, although it has been suggested that the paintings had been treated with flame-retardant varnish, which explains how they survived the fires. The Hands Resist Him was painted in 1972 by artist William Stoneham, who at the time was in a contract to produce 2 paintings a month for $200 each. The inspiration for the painting came from an old childhood photo and a poem written by his first wife. In 1974, the painting was taken to Beverly Hills, California, where it was put on display at the Feingarten Gallery. Henry Seldes, an art critic for the Los Angeles Times, wrote, "William Stoneham's paintings are at their best when at their weirdest. In those instances, the young artist comes close to inventing the first truly neo-surrealist painting I have encountered to date that extends the surrealist fantasies into the contemporary realm. The best works here deserve the attention of collectors devoted to traditional surrealism, without objecting to a good many new and startling twists. Only one of Stoneham's paintings sold in the show, that being The Hands Resist Him. The painting was purchased by actor John Marley, notable for his role as Jack Woltz in The Godfather. The Hands Resist Him, said to be responsible for the deaths of 3 men who were close to the painting at the time of its first sale. The first was Henry Seldes in 1978. The art critic who wrote a review of Stoneham's work at his debut art show in 1974. According to authorities at the time, they believe Seldes committed suicide after being found dead in his apartment. The next was Charles Feingarten, the man who contracted Stoneham's work and whose gallery served as the location of the art show. Feingarten passed away in 1981. Lastly, the first owner was actor John Marley, who died in 1980 for after having open heart surgery, though he sold the painting before his death. Sometime after Marley's death, the painting was said to have come into the possession of a California couple. After being found on the site of an old brewery, they took it home. The couple owned the painting briefly, before placing a listing for it on eBay, with a long description claiming the painting was cursed. It was reported by the couple that the boy had occasionally exited the painting in the night, explaining that they meant to sell it only to those with an interest in the paranormal, and that purchase of the piece released them from all liability of any unusual activity that might occur as a result of owning or displaying the painting. Included in their listing were 2 photos taken by a motion-triggered camera that the couple had set up after experiencing what they believed to be a haunting. The photos displayed what the couple said were images of the female doll in the painting, threatening the bar with a pistol. They also warned users not to use the motion camera images as computer backgrounds or show them to children and juveniles. Some of the 30,000 viewers of the eBay ad claim that printers malfunction when trying to print the image of the painting, and many viewers reported feeling ill, or even hearing voices when looking at the painting. The winning bidder of eBay's haunted painting was gallery owner Kim Smith. The painting presently resides in the back room of Smith's Perception Fine Art Gallery in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Its current resting place is the result of a request from Smith's sons, who didn't want to keep the most haunted painting in the world in their family home. Smith has only publicly shown the haunted painting 6 times, though he has yet to experience anything supernatural. This painting was created by the Ukrainian artist Svetlana Telets in 1996. She painted it shortly after graduating from Krakow Odessa Art School, the oldest art school of its type in Ukraine. The painting depicts a woman in the rain. Her appearance is elongated and distorted with downcast eyes. According to the artist, she produced this cursed artwork in around 5 hours, and during the entire process, she felt as if her hand was being guided by some force outside of herself. She said she had always felt as if there was someone there with her, watching everything she did. She is quoted as saying, "One day, a day it wasn't raining at all by the way, I sat in front of a blank canvas and thought what to draw." Here, said Telets, this is where the subject sprang to life, coming to her mind's eye almost fully formed. Suddenly, I clearly saw the contours of a woman, her face, the colors, the shades. In an instant, I noticed all the details of the image. By the time the painting was complete, she immediately recognized it as the being that was always watching her. She soon sold the work, but it was returned several times by different customers. The first buyer, a businesswoman, hung it in her bedroom. 2 weeks later, however, she was at Telets' doorstep, saying, "Please take her away. I cannot sleep. It seems that there is someone in the apartment with me. I even took it off the wall and hid it in the closet, but it doesn't help." The second buyer, a young man, hung the painting in his living room, but he, too, returned it to Telets after only a brief period. He said, "I dream about it every night. She appears and follows me like a shadow." The third buyer came to the subject already knowing of its strange reputation, but again, there were problems. He is quoted as saying, "At first, I didn't notice how white her eyes were." The buyer reportedly said, "And then they began to appear everywhere." He continued, "It seemed like just a little bit longer, and I would drown in them. I'd rather buy something classic." He concluded, returning subject to Telets once more. It was bought in 2007 by the musician Sergei Skotko, who felt strongly that the picture belonged with him. He tracked the painting down after reading an article about it, and accepted the rumors the painting had. And according to this article, the painting traveled to Russia, where it was hung in his office and most likely remains to this day. And according to Sergei Skotko, he is not afraid of the painting or the hauntings. It is said to give off no bad vibes, and he has no plan of returning it. The painting of this unknown girl carries an eerie aura as well as a disturbing history, having been returned twice to a charity shop for being supposedly cursed. In 2023, an anonymous owner donated this painting in a batch with 7 other pictures to a charity shop in East Sussex. The shop's manager said he thought all of them looked quite normal, but said that the girl in this painting did have a very odd look about her. He attached a modest price of £20 to the painting and displayed it in the window. Soon after, a woman bought it, but just 3 days later she brought it back to the shop, saying she'd experienced a creepy aura about it and that nothing good is going to happen from this picture. The store manager tried to give the woman her money back, but she told him to keep it and she left the store. The painting then went back on display in the window for the same £20, this time with an extra note on it reading, "Possibly cursed." Ignoring this note, a second woman, Zoe Elliott Brown, bought the painting. But, just like the previous owner, she returned it 3 days later. The charity shop's manager recalls that she looked distressed and said that everything had gone wrong. As soon as she hung it in her house, Zoe and her mother Jane began hearing knocking sounds in the night, even though nobody was there. Jane also began experiencing trembling fits and became freezing cold despite wearing fur jumpers. And her daughter had to ring for an ambulance after Jane collapsed in the bathroom. Not only did these strange happenings continue, but 2 weeks later Zoe and partner then headed out for a walk approximately 3 miles from her home when a storm started. As they reached the top of a clearing, they came across a big black figure standing before them. They began running back the way they had come, both screaming. As it chased them, Zoe has said, "It was the most terrifying experience of both our lives." Wanting to rid her family of the curse, Zoe went back to the charity shop the very next morning to return the picture, and was shocked to find a screw in her new tire when she arrived. Before leaving the store, she warned the manager to be careful who he sold it to next. Once again, the painting was put back in the sales window for the same original price, with a new note reading, "She's back, sold twice and returned twice. Are you brave enough?" Zoe returned to the shop a few days later to see if the painting had been sold for a third time. She saw it hadn't, and the manager told her he really wanted it gone from the shop and asked her to take it away. Zoe agreed to take it back, although she sealed it up in a box and put some sage with it. She also put sage all around the corners of her mum's house, putting it in an online auction. She sold it to the London Bridge Experience, where it has continued to have a haunting effect on those who have dealt with it. Upon picking up the portrait, a staff member's car broke down, and when he went on holiday, he dislocated his shoulder in a bizarre waterslide accident. Someone died on a ferry where he was a passenger, and his flight was delayed. From the moment it was placed on site at the London Bridge Experience, paranormal activity has been sparked by this portrait, with the Wi-Fi cutting off, security cameras stopping working, and televisions turning off on their own. The Love Letters painting is dubbed as one of the most haunted paintings in the world, and is most known for its connection to Austin's Driscoll Hotel. The legend goes that a young girl of 4, named Samantha Houston, chased her ball down the grand stairs and tripped and fell to her death. But the girl depicted isn't Samantha at all. This painting was a modern-day replica by Richard Keane of a work entitled Love Letters that was originally painted by Charles Trevor Garland in around 1889, with the model most likely being one of the artist's daughters, although it is quite possible that the painting may have been bought because the little girl in the picture resembled Samantha. Many people think that this painting was then hung up on the 5th floor of the hotel as a tribute to her. When this picture was hung up on the 5th floor of the hotel, people reported feeling dizzy around the painting, nauseous, and having strange sensations like being lifted off the ground. Others have said that the girl in the painting has tried to communicate with them, and that her expression changes when the painting is looked at for a long period. Many people that own a print of Love Letters have claimed that they have experienced paranormal activity, with many people feeling uneasy in the presence of the painting. And some have suggested that bad luck falls on anyone who possesses one. Subscribe for more spooky content.